I was just listening to, I never really followed the Killers after their first album, Hot Fuss. I mean, I listened to a couple of the songs off some of the, but I was listening to the one song, Miss Atomic Bomb, and it sounds very heavily influenced by, like, Bruce Springsteen. You know, the Killers record does, which is fine. You know, like, when you were young, kind of feels like it's like a newer Born to Run. It's a good song, you know what I mean? I mean, everything's influenced. There's only so many chords. Anyways, so the town that I grew up in, I always, like, after leaving it, I felt like some of the names for areas of the town were just so, like, mysterious and cool to me sounding. Like, if I was, like, a novelist or had a gift of, like, you know, writing, like a, you know, like almost like fiction or like Stephen King type stuff. Not that I'm into horror, but I'm saying the way the minutia of the details of shit, you know, they make things look and sound magical in the simplicity of it. You know, like, there's an area in my town called Lower Town, okay? So, you have Lower Town, you have, you have the Trestle, all right? Which is a upside down bridge over the canal. You have Outwater Park, which is it just sounds like a lot cooler than it really is. You had an area in Outwater Park called the Crane, which was basically a hill down in a gully a little bit where somebody left this huge fucking crane, and you would ride your bikes, like your BMX bikes there, and it was across the street from the first girl I kissed's house on Trowbridge, across from the community pool. You know, you had the community pool. Let me see what else that was cool. You had a place called, what was it? Not Green Mile. Damn. There was man, I forget the name of this. It was like an obstacle course to us. Man, it was on Willow Street. It was like, I don't even know. I don't ever think I completed it because I wasn't good at hopping fences. But you basically went from, like, say, a block somewhere, like, parallel, like, in a straight line, right? You went in a block, but it was like 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks, and it was all through backyards. I'm gonna have to think of what that shit was called, but it was like, I don't know if when you grew up, you know, if things were like that, but like our downtown looked like a it looked like the movie Back to the Future. You know, we had the Palace Theater with its sparkling marquee, you know, and it was Back to the Future, or in 3D. We had the drive-in theater right across from this little shitty airport that I don't even know. It was open and closed, but I don't know, it was kind of cool. Like, you had Clinton Street Hill that went down Lower Town. So when you went down Lower Town, you had an area called, what was it? It was called the Mill. So you went down Lower Town, down the hill, Clinton Street, and there was this, like, abandoned paper mill that was cool as fuck to go in. And it had this little brook called 18 Mile Creek that went through it. There was a really lot of cool little fucking areas that would be cool to, like, document, like, film and snippets, you know, like a sizzle reel. Like, 'cause, I mean, I can guarantee you this. even at my age now, if I showed people this shit, people would go, wow, that's pretty fucking cool, Like, you would go down the mill, so you had this huge mill, like a big factory, all overgrown and shit, and you went under a fence, and then there was, like, the creek went under, like, a little bridge a footbridge that you could walk across at one time, and the water was nice looking. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't, but it was, there was greenery and plants and shit growing up there. You'd see some big ass fish going through there. And I believe it went out to fucking Lake Ontario at some point. Man, these people put tarps. They got, Jesus. This dude, there's no way he's not on meth. So, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I was listening to the song Miss Atomic Bomb by the Killers and kind of thinking about, like, we had the UAW Hall. We had the UAW Hall next to the United Auto Workers. I remember we rented that out and played a show there. We had Kenzie's Bowling Alley downtown, which my dad said when he was a kid was a really nice restaurant. And they used to do hardcore shows and all ages shows there. And that's the one thing that I kind of look at today. And even like around here, like a high school kids, like I don't ever see any flyers for like bands playing at like such and such lounge or whatever. It's like I'm sure there's probably some underground scene that I'm just, that's on Instagram, I would hope, kids play, but it's like there's no, like, kids aren't trying to like get a fucking all ages show in a coffee house or something, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought of that, but I was listening to the song, and some of the Bruce Springsteen stuff that I hear, I kind of look back at and go, yeah, that, I don't know, things make me think of my hometown. Things make me think of my hometown and stuff, and I don't miss, it was an awesome place to grow up. Like, it was, when you were young, it was definitely an awesome place. Looks like a fucking detective down there. I don't know what's going to do with that. It was a good place to grow up, 20,000 people. Wasn't a lot to do where I grew up, so you used to just smoke weed. Acid was pretty big when I was a kid. You talk about some of my acid trips, bad and fucking, I would never take that shit again. Mushrooms, where we used to drive. So I was talking to somebody from Buffalo that lives up in Land O'Lakes, and I was just telling her, like, we were talking about, like, the Warped Tour, when the Warped Tour was new, and driving up to Buffalo when I was a kid. It was like driving to New York City. There was no internet, man. You looked at the map, you went up Transit, made a right, got on Millersport Highway, went this way, from driving with your dad, got off on Delaware, and you drove down to, like, where some of the big buildings started, and I was like, fuck that, turn around.